let's see if we can get through another 5 minutes of Jonathan in less than 5 hours.
And that is how you do stuff. That is how you do stuff that most people don't think is possible. Because they just decided it wasn't possible, so they don't even think about it. And then you actually look at it and you're like, oh, you know, I could start a rocket company. Or I could land a rocket, right? Or whatever, you know. I could.
Just to be clear, I actually use a similar analogy that Jonathan does at Merle and at the university. Is I'll mention that, and this, I think people struggle with this because I think their personal subjectivity has a tendency to cloud their objective and rational view of the world. And that is that I realize that Elon Musk might not be super hot in the news these days. And whether that is warranted or not, I don't know. I don't spend my time thinking about the gossip of this kind of thing. What I do pay attention to is what people are able to achieve. And I know that Elon has a lot of people that work with him, and they deserve an incredible amount of credit. And I'm trying to give credit to like essentially all of them and Elon at the same time. But the point that I would make is, irrespective of what you think about him as a person, whether you like his political views or you don't, or what he does with drugs you like or you don't, all those things, all of that aside, there is an objective reality that he has accomplished some incredible things that have the potential to move society in a positive direction. Minimally, that would be Tesla, Starlink, and SpaceX, maybe XAI, maybe. And we'll leave like X and Twitter out of it, right? So those things they're nearly definitive advances in technology that are for the betterment of the human race. So I think that that's awesome, right? And I don't love everything that he does. And truthfully, if I ever met him, I'm not sure we would even get along, because I think like he might be a little bit off the rails. But it doesn't change the view that I have, that I can deeply respect what he's done. I can look at it and say, this is pretty incredible. You can catch rockets. That's amazing, right? And you can put satellites around the earth and give people internet, right? I mean, like, these are just sort of objective realities of things. And I think far too often we allow our emotional disposition to outrank our intellectual understanding of things. And as a Stoic, and hopefully many of you on GTT are aspiring Stoics or Stoics, this is what we fight against, right? We fight against this. Don't try to avoid letting your emotions control your rational mind. It's okay to have emotions. Like, again, I'm being very clear. I don't necessarily love Elon as a person, but what I do like, and I am impressed by, are the technical achievements that he's made. And again, these are some pretty sophisticated things. I don't expect that everyone is going to like be on board, but this is how I really feel.
I could turn my bookstore into something that owns all American shipping, right?
Yeah. So this is his comment about Amazon, I believe. And I want to share one more thing, since he brought up Bezos. As I understand it, Jeff Bezos was arguing that the biggest sign for him for someone's intelligence is their ability to change their opinion in light of new evidence. Let me say this one more time. Jeff Bezos has gone on record, you can probably find this on the interwebs, that the sign that he believes is the biggest indicator of someone's intelligence is their ability to change their position on something in light of new evidence. Because the evidence that's come in contradicts their prior position, and they're smart enough to know that they didn't have that information before. Now they have new data, and so their position has changed. Yes, this is, believe it or not, the scientific method. It's a scientific method in practice. That's actually what that is. That's literally what the scientific method says. You have the thing, you have the hypothesis, you run the experiments, and it's the same, and it reinforces your views. And then one time it's different. And then what do? You either throw out that idea or you go back and you change it so it works with the new evidence. Oh my God. Brilliant. Masterful. Also, very growth-oriented. Something to consider.
That is a thing. And you're a much more successful person when you realize that that is a thing. Now that's my opinion, right? So of course, that said, right, the flip side, that making the error in the other direction, is all the people who are super idealistic and say, oh, I'm going to be able to do this awesome thing, and it's going to be no problem because I'm me and I'm cool, right? That doesn't work either.
Yeah. Yes. Being in Silicon Valley, I'm probably surrounded with, especially with the university that I teach at. I mean, come on, like, you guys can probably imagine what my class looks like. Is you have me teaching this area that I've deeply invested in, and all the students know I have a company in this topic. I mean, how many of my students do you think come up to me and say, so, Goju, how do I create a startup? I mean, it's like all of them. It's like 100%. Okay. Now, I'm in a bit of an outlier space because I'm in the heart of Silicon Valley. But I will say that of all the students that I've had in the last 4 years at this uni, let me rephrase it. It's very hard to do a startup. It's very hard. And oftentimes not for the reasons that I think people think it would be hard. My recommendation is that if you're curious about this, check out the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Let me just write this down in the chat. I think this is Horowitz, from Andreessen and Horowitz. It's the hard things about, the hard. It's something like this, maybe. The hard things about hard things, or the hard thing about hard things, something like this. And what you'll quickly see, I think, in reading this book is he's talking, I think, almost exclusively about creating companies. And what he talks about, I think, is not at all what most people would expect. At least not for me. It's quite different than what I think a lot of people believe without having gone through the experience. So I'm mentioning this because doing a successful startup, especially VC-backed, there's many, many things that you have to juggle. And it requires you to, in some sense, be like a jack of all trades. You'll need to kind of have your hand in a lot of different things, at least as the CEO and as like a co-founder or the founder. And not many people can do that. And when I say not many people can do that, I don't mean they can't do that because it's not possible. I mean that they can't do that because they haven't currently built up the skills to do that. They could with training, but they need to understand that it's harder, much harder than they likely believe it is. And so you've got his other end of the spectrum where, and there's many people, this is, what do they say, like over 50% of companies fail in the first year, and something like 99% of the companies fail within the first 3, something like this. I mean, it's a ridiculously large number, but it makes sense because it's hard. And unless you really want to throw down and live your life in the space of your company, which is probably what you're going to have to do for the first 6-7 years, I would argue that's usually approximately a good number to think about. You might be biting off more than you can chew. So you can't go in also so laissez-faire. There's like, I got this, piece of cake. You should probably have some amount of trepidation. Like, I think this is a case where you should have the fear, tons of fear. You should just be able to conquer that fear. That's all. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but like that's maybe the simplest way that I can think about is I think the people that are over here that think that it's just so easy, almost all of these people are bound to fail because this is like a Dunning-Kruger thing. And unless they figure it out really fast, then they're probably just toast right away. People like Elizabeth Holmes come to mind. Is they start to realize how hard it is, and they just start BSing their way through this, and then they get found out, and then they're spending the rest of their life in jail. And then other people that they start out, and again, I know lots of people that do this, and they're like, I'm going to create a company, and then they can't even get a single dollar from an investor. It's kind of like you're already cooked at that point, unless you are just born with tons of money, right? So that's the one side. The other side, and this is where I think more the successful people come from, is there is fear. There is terror. You do deeply understand how much work it is, but you just like mentally are saying, but I'm going to do it anyway. I have a sense of what I'm getting into. I don't know that I don't know everything, but I know enough. And I know this is going to be like super hard. It's not going to be easy. I'm not under any kind of delusion about how challenging it is. I'm going to do it anyway. Those are the people that I think end up doing like ridiculously incredible things. And so if you are on this other side where you're just think it's so easy and it's a piece of cake, the truth is, this is the reality. Probably all those people are not even watching this stream because they already know the answer. Like, this is probably like one of the worst ways to be. You already know the answer. No, you don't. Right? This is like you're the knower of all things. And you're going to get to about 2 steps, and then the floor is going to fall out from underneath you. Don't be that person. Like, be the person that openly acknowledges, I'm not the knower of all things. I have good intentions. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to be directly correct. I'm learning, but I don't know everything. And so I'm going to make mistakes. Correct me when I make those mistakes, and just let's level ourselves up. And let's not be under any pretense that like we're a work of art that's beyond critique. This is just a recipe for failure. Don't have that view. That these people over here, these are like not my crowd. Be, I think, more in this space, but just decide I can overcome.
Those people fail. And the reason is because you have to have a realistic assessment of your current abilities and of your ability to learn. You have to have a realistic assessment of what the problem is and what is failing about your current approach. And in fact, you have to update that very rapidly while you're trying the thing, because always what happens is you don't really know that much, it turns out in retrospect, about the thing you're trying.
Iterate and adapt. This is probably one of the most important things that I've learned, is the goal here, at least in my view, of working on very hard problems, is not to solve the problem. Solving the problem is easy. What's hard is building a framework to where you can solve the problem iteratively and adapt. So then when you solve it the first way, and it works kind of, but it really didn't, then all the other corner cases that you didn't think about that are broken, you can start to fix. This works if you build a model, a framework for iterative adaptation, iterative refinement. Focus on this, as like a first order concern, and then you can continue to level yourself up. This is part of the reason why language models are basically cooked in my mind, is because of their built-in stochasticity and their lack of repeatability, understandability, interpretability, ultimately debuggability. They don't have the ability for iterative refinement, and almost all the science in the world is based on iterative refinement. That's why airplanes fly. It's not because the first airplane we created was a Boeing 747 and it just worked. That's not how it works. A lot of people tried and a lot of people got it wrong, but we iterated and we adapted. And we built these airplanes off of mostly deterministic science, and we continue to level up the science. Because it's deterministic, we can, and then we continue to make better and better solutions. So, yeah.
To do until you go start doing it and running into problems, right? And so people on both ends of these fail. People who take problems too seriously fail, and people who don't take them seriously enough fail. You want to be like Goldilocks. You want to get it just right.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. But what's interesting is like the Goldilocks in this space, I think, is not the middle. Like if you have these two things, you have the people that think that it's not hard at all, and then the people that think it's impossible. I think one might argue you want to be right in the middle. And I think that's right. I think you actually want to be more like here. You want to look at it and understand this is real. You want to respect it, right? Like when you go to run a marathon, you want to know this is going to be really hard. This is a long run. But I can do this, but I need to respect the problem. Otherwise, I'm going to be eaten by it. And so I agree with him that it's a little bit of a Goldilocks problem, but I think the actual, the right spot for many of the hard problems is not dead center of those two ends of the spectrum, but a little bit more on the side where it's like, yeah, I'm legitimately terrified, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm just that kind of crazy. Not this other side where this is so easy. It's just a piece of cake. Like all you need to do is this. Like, this reductive, simplistic thinking is, yeah. Also, it's one of, I think, the fastest ways to make enemies with like hyper intelligent people is to explain to them that the problems they're working on are just so easy. Why don't they just do this? And then you find out quickly that it wasn't so easy. It's just you didn't know very much, and maybe you should humble yourself a little bit and instead understand these are really smart people and ask questions like, this is interesting, but here's an idea that I have, but this seems super simple. What am I missing? And then they'll say, more likely than not, yes. And so we all thought about this too 20 years ago. Here's what we decided. We came up with this, and here's all the reasons why it won't work. And then the beauty is you learn things because you ask questions. Yeah, so continue to ask questions.
I will be fine even if I'm the only user. Yeah, but I wouldn't be doing this if I thought that that was a high probability. You can't apply this to generic language for everyone. Here's the thing. That is what everybody says, okay? And again, I've talked to other people about this too, and they observe the same thing. In every category where I get asked for advice from people, like let's say I'm funding an indie game, right? And they're like, how do I market my indie game and get people to pay attention to it? And I say, well, you know, it's always hard to say. You're gonna need to get creative and do some of your own thing because your game is different from everyone else's, but you kind of need to do this thing and that thing and that thing, right? Or people ask, how do I learn how to program really well? And I say, you do this thing and that thing. And almost always, 99% of the time, people say, oh, I can't do that. Oh, I wouldn't do that. That's for you.
There's that word again. Ooh, this is like the biggest swear word. This is more of a swear word to me than like the F word. That C word, can't. Oh man, and this probably sounds like I'm being over dramatic, but it's not. I'm being actually 1,000% serious. Is that this is one of the biggest limiters that I've seen in people's lives is that word can't. this is where I like side with the kind of the loony people that are like, I can do anything, right? At least you got the right mindset, right? You want to have that mindset, but you really want to have that fear of like, this is going to be super hard. But when people make that declaration of, oh, I can't do that, or I can't program in C++, it's too hard, I just need to stay in these simpler languages. Who decided you can't? Who made that rule? Did God make the rule? Like, did the founder or CEO of the company make the rule? Did your parents make that rule? Like, who decided that you can't do this? And why? Why would you limit yourself to not being able to do things simply because you've told yourself or other people have told you that you can't? Like, that seems strange to me. It seems very limiting. But I think that's also part of the reason why people like Jonathan are anomalous, because I suspect he got a ton of this. Oh, you can't do that. And inside his head, he probably also had, again, I don't know what he thinks, but at least for me, I had times where my inner voice was saying, you can't do this. This is too hard. What are you doing? This is never going to succeed. This whole machine programming thing is a joke. There's no way the university will let you like create an entirely new course on this thing at the graduate level to do this thing that you wrote a couple of papers about, right? You just like, that voice is there. You just need to like get that voice to shut up. And, you know, again, respect the problem, but don't resign yourself to failure. Don't do it. Because if you do that, then yes, you will fail. You already have.
Not for me. And it's like, no, look, what I'm telling you is how to be as good at something as I am, because all I did was do these things. All right? You could do these things too. And people don't. They filter themselves out. They self-select. Why? I don't know. I think there is something very deep. This is supposition on my part, but I think there is something very deep in human psychology where people don't like to.
By the way, one other thing that I want to share that I absolutely love about Jonathan is I really like the way that he uses weak claims. This is something we've talked about quite a bit, and it's something that I think, like, I learned doing my doctorate, and I teach both at the uni and the PhD students I mentor, as well as the folks at Merle, is to qualify your claims. And when you're stating an opinion, try to make it as clear as possible that this is an opinion. It's not a fact. And something that I see him do quite a bit just in this video is he qualifies things. He'll say, this is what I think. Or like he just said, my view on this is this. Keep in mind, this is supposition. I don't actually know. This is the sign, I think, of someone that understands nuance. Is that there are probably a large group of people that he's going to be right about on this human psychology thing he's going to share. But there's probably going to be some part that he's not right about. But because he's weak in the claim, and he's saying, like, this is, you know, what I think, and this is just supposition, I don't have, like, concrete evidence to back this up. This is just what I feel is the thing based on what I'm seeing in my head. It, one, lets people know that this guy knows that he's not the knower of all things, but he has ideas, but he's probably also open to feedback to level him up, because he's not necessarily drawing this hard line saying, I know it all, and this is exactly what it is. Like, this tells me, in some sense, he has a growth mindset. Because of the way he's qualifying things, it also gives him the chance to grow and be wrong today so he can be right tomorrow. This is often why you may hear me say, this is sort of what I believe today, or I'm not entirely sure about this, is just what I think right now, and this may evolve. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not like I'm trying to get out of committing to a view. I have, as most of my friends and family know, very strong opinions about a small number of things. But then in most other things, I have general ideas about stuff without having like unwavering conviction on them, because I just don't know enough. So I can speculate and have supposition, but I just don't know. So you shouldn't necessarily take everything that I'm saying like at face value, because I could very well be wrong. And I feel like that's what Jonathan's doing. And this, to me, is a sign of someone that is not only has a high degree of intelligence, but someone that has a high degree of wisdom. This is wisdom in my mind, because he's like wise enough to realize that he could be making a mistake here. And he also wants to make sure that he doesn't lose trust with the people he's talking to by making ridiculous claims that he's not right about. And then people are like, you think you know everything and it's actually not correct. So I think what I'm getting at is there's lots to really like about Jonathan in my mind. And part of that is he seems to have an incredible ability to communicate the ideas that he has. And this is not necessarily an easy thing. This is why on my list of virtues, you'll see that master communication is like right at the top. I think especially for technologists, it's far too easy to just be like, well, I'm a superstar in code. That's all I ever need to be in, right? And it's like, I can pretty much guarantee you that if you really want to go and do really incredible things, you're going to have to master communication as well as you're mastering your ability to write code. Don't believe me? Walk that path. And in 20 years, tell me. You can come back and tell me that I'm right. I don't care about being right. I just want to help you grow. And so just try to master communication now. Just start working on it as much as you're working on your code or your AI or whatever. Trust me. You can thank me in 20 years when it's helped your life immensely. And I'm not saying this like arrogantly. I'm saying like my own mentors taught me the same thing, and I was resistant and thought they didn't know what they were talking about. And if only I would have listened sooner.
Be outliers, because being an outlier is dangerous. So if you tell them the way that you succeed at this is to be an outlier in terms of what you do, just a switch in people's brains flips and they go, oh no, that's not me. Even when the steps aren't that hard. And so I see this all the time. And so you're saying, well, you can't give this advice to people to normal people. And I'm like, yes, I can, because this is how you succeed. I'm trying my best to say how you succeed at things that people normally wouldn't try. This is.
Yeah, on top of that, I don't buy that argument either. Like, some people will tell me the same thing. Like, I actually get pushback on this quite a bit, saying, well, the only way that your approach works, Goju, is for like the truly insane people that are willing to work 100-hour work weeks and stuff. And by 100-hour work week, I mean actual 100-hour work week. I don't mean like I'm just creating a number. I'm saying like you can do 100-hour work weeks. It's very hard, but it can be done. 80-hour work weeks, I think, are actually, in my mind, not that hard. Because I think if I've done the math right, what is it, like 5 12-hour days and then 2 10-hour days? Is that right? Something like that. And for those of us that are, I think, well-conditioned on work, a 10-hour day is like a walk in the park. In fact, what time is it now? Yeah, so I'm already over 10 hours. Like, do I look tired? Okay, I might look tired, but I'm not tired. So yeah, I started working around midnight. It's around 10:30 a.m. And I'll be going for maybe another 10 hours. But I usually do start to lose a little mental resilience, if I'm being honest, at least with the conditioning I have today, at about hour 16. Like, I do notice there's this very interesting state that you get to. Like, for those of you that are runners, or if you've run a marathon or something, I'm not a marathon runner, but I used to be. I used to run these things, and not like I'm setting any world records. I'm just trying to finish the race. That's all I'm trying to do. Like, even if it's dead last, which was my first marathon, I don't care about placing any of that. I just want to like see if I can actually get through the 26.2 miles. So where was I going with this? Oh, there's this whole normality thing. So a marathon is very hard, but it is achievable. And working something like 80 hours a week is also very hard, but achievable. What I think Jonathan is talking about, and this is something that I think is absolutely true, is when we're born, aren't we all kind of like normal in the sense that, has anybody like out of the womb won the Turing Award? Now, I know some people will say, well, there's gifted people, and I got to be honest, I feel like this may sound like a little harsh. I'm going to say it anyway, is I feel like the people that say things like, oh, well, there are people that are just gifted, and if you're not gifted, then you can't really compete at that level. I feel kind of like that's what losers say. Like, that probably sounds pretty harsh, but I don't know how else to say this. Is like, all the people that I know that have done like truly incredible things, and I know a lot of people, at least in tech and computer science and stuff, that have done these incredible things. I don't know a single one of them that was like, yeah, I'm just a Mozart, man. I was born with all this innate talent, and so I just showed up when I was 7 years old, and I was a grandmaster, right? And I could program in 30 different languages. I mean, nobody knows programming languages when they're born. You have to learn these things, and you learn them through putting in work. The work is what determines your skill and your focus. And so under that premise, we're all normal people at the beginning, and then we make decisions that then make us abnormal, that make us more outliers. And those decisions that I think Jonathan and I talk about are the commitment to a cause, a commitment to doing something that is truly incredible, that most people would kind of scoff at and say, that can't be done. That's way too much work. I think this is where you start to separate from the normal people and like the John Carmacks of the world. And I much prefer hanging out with those folks. And I know that it's a lot of work. It's very hard. But truthfully, I think that it's a demonstration sort of what can be done when you stop telling yourself that you can't do things because you're just a normal person. Now, again, I want to clarify. I think there are corner cases, and I've mentioned this before. I think that there is some baseline of intelligence that is a genetic thing, that is very much a gift. And so for all of you super geniuses out there that are like, you're super proud of your 190 IQ, stop self-congratulating because you did nothing for that. It's sort of like you congratulating yourself by how pretty you are or how tall you are. You did nothing for these things. So stop self-congratulating and just do the work. And also, don't ever be more respectful or less respectful for someone that has differing levels of intelligence of you. That's something that is an innate, that's an immutable characteristic that they were born with. Recognize people more for their mutable qualities. What did they know? What have they done? What have they achieved? These are things that actually they've put the work into. These are the things that I think people should be praised for, not because they're 6'7", right? Or have a 200 IQ. Who cares, right? I mean, at least I don't care. I don't. It seems like a very silly thing to kind of praise people on. But the normal part, I think, is key, is understanding that we are all in this space of normality. And then some of us make the mental decision to say, okay, I'm gonna go do more. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to dedicate myself to something harder and bigger. I'm just going to figure it out.
My best advice, and it'll work for most people. I mean, maybe if somebody is just really not a good programmer, well, they shouldn't follow this advice with regard to programming, but they could follow it with regard to something else. You know? I see this all the time. I've talked to other people who mentor people and fund people, and they see it all the time too. It is very, very common. Very common. And I don't know what to do about it, because all I can do is give advice, and then all people can do is ignore it, and then I'm just like, great. See you, bro.
Yeah, and the truth is, this is kind of the view that I take. the way that I think about this today is the only thing really that I can do is to share some of the things that I think maybe I've learned along the way and try to create some sort of structure on the things that I think are valuable and are helpful to help people achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, whether that's breakdancing or manufacturing cars or writing code or singing songs. Whatever that is, you do you. But I think that there are some core traits that anyone that wants to compete at that Olympic or world-class level, you must develop. And so my view on this now, as I've discussed this quite a bit with some of my inner circle, is I will just share the information and then people can ignore it, which is fine, right? Like, it's not like it matters to me personally. I'm just trying to share the things that I think I've learned. Or they can follow it and then they can potentially level themselves up. In either case, the best I can do is just sort of disseminate the knowledge and then let people decide what's best for them. There was a time when I was younger that I was keen on trying to teach people. But what I realized is that I can't, it's very much like an Asmongold thing. His view is, like, what is it? You can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. My view is similar-ish to this on this learning thing, is I can't teach someone something that they don't want to learn. If they don't have any interest in actually learning and growing, then I can't help them grow. It needs to be an internal thing. And I've kind of learned this the hard way. It sounds like Jonathan has as well, is I used to get frustrated. Like, why is this not making sense? And what I realized is a lot of it has to do with the student. And in this case, the issue was not that the student lacked the intellectual acumen or the background knowledge. They lacked the desire to grow. And that's something I can't change. That's entirely on the student. And so I follow a very similar view to him. I don't actually have any emotional engagement on it at this point. The way I think about it is what it is. I'm not going to become jaded. I'm going to continue to go out in the world and try to level people up if I can. And if I can't, then I can't. But I'm not going to start getting negative and pessimistic with people, because I think in that way I've lost. Like, if I start changing the positive outlook that I have on trying to help other people because I get a little pushback or I get like students that aren't willing to learn, then they've won, right? Like I'm now a pessimistic, curmudgeon, grumpy person, and that's not who I want to be. I want to be the kind of person that is blissfully ignorant, and maybe I'm not even ignorant. Maybe I'm aware, but I just am choosing to not pay attention to that, saying, yep, I'm aware that happened and that's not working, but let's just keep going. It is what it is.
Right? I mean, it's frustrating, but it is what it is, I guess.
It is what it is.